Hey guys, don't mind the hair, it's wet. I'm waiting for it to dry so I can dye it, but I figure you guys don't care. So I just want to say first and foremost, that is how you do an American Horror Story episode. I was so completely impressed with this episode, and I don't take back anything I said about the previous episodes. They still are what they are, but this episode just went more into the details of some of the stories that we were waiting for and some of the side stories that were never really explained. We got to see so much more of the witch hunters, which was amazing. And I actually didn't like the main witch hunter's character, which is Cordelia's husband. I never liked him. Granted, you're not really supposed to, but I never was curious about his story or anything. But then, in the first scene of this episode, it shows him and his father in the woods on a hunt, and you just kind of assume they're hunting animals, and it ends up being a witch, and I was like, that's genius. It was an amazing clip. I absolutely loved the intro of this episode. With that, the ending of this episode was magnificent, and it was so emotional and sad, and it just ripped my heart out for characters I'd never cared about before. And I think it had to do with the music that was going on with the African American power type, freedom song that was playing while all of the Voodoo Queen's friends and whatever in her salon are shot and killed by this witch hunter. And Queenie ends up being the hero in all of this and pulls the gun on herself, but she uses her power of, what's that word? Projection, I guess you could say. Whatever she does to herself, it happens to the other person. So she did that, and it killed the witch hunter ultimately, and herself. And it was a really sad moment. I was actually really sad to see that and see them get shot. It was just so realistic and horrifying, and it was a really moving scene. So I'm really proud of the writers and the director for going that route, and this episode had the aura that American Horror Story has always been or supposed to have. This is the kind of feeling I got in the second season, and it excited me because it was a different kind of feeling. You felt sadness, you felt horror, shock, terror. I mean, that is the basis of American Horror Story, so finally they brought that feeling back with this episode. We see a lot of graphic type images, not just with the shooting, but with LaLaurie's head being removed in the last episode. I thought for sure she would die. I haven't forgotten that she was immortal, but I didn't know that she was that immortal because she was still alive. And that was kind of, when you first see her body in the cage without a hand and without head, it was very intense for me, and I don't know why. It was just a very shocking moment. And then her head is in the box, but she's fully talkative and thinking and whatever. So Queenie decides to punish her by putting her on this table and making her watch all these African American movies and show her what exactly her people are and what they stand for and the freedom and everything, overcoming slavery. And LaLaurie actually starts crying, so she's actually had this epiphany of what she's done, and that was a moving scene as well. And that was at the end while everyone was dying. LaLaurie was crying, and it was just very sad. It was such a sad episode. And I also really enjoyed Myrtle's scene with the other council members. I was like on the edge of my seat the whole time. I'm like, what is she gonna do? I know she's gonna do something gruesome right now to get back at them for what they did, because basically they believed a lie, although given the evidence I would have probably too. But it wasn't Myrtle that threw the acid in Cordelia's eyes. It was actually this, what is it called, the Delphi Corporate, I don't know what it is. It's the witch hunter company, where Hank, who is the Cordelia's husband witch hunter, his father is the main guy of this Delphi company that hunts witches. And he's not very proud of his son, and he's just like, you're sloppy, you're not doing your job. But anyway, so we know that Myrtle is ultimately a good character. I really loved her character, even when I thought that she did throw the acid in Cordelia's eyes. But I'm glad. Okay, let me just I have too many ideas. Let me just stick to one. So her scene with the other council members, it was so entertaining to me and laughable, and I loved it. It was the guy and the woman from the council, and she gave them like melon balls, you know, in the bowl, and they start eating them, and I guess she had this paralyzing potion in it. I don't know. It's something that makes you paralyzed, and you can still feel everything. You can still feel fear and all of that, and so you just are paralyzed. You can't do anything or say anything, and so she takes the melon baller and takes out each one of their eyes. So she takes out one eye from the woman and one eye from the guy. Her intention with this is to give them to Cordelia, and she implants them in Cordelia's eyes, and then what do you know, she can see. So now she has one blue eye, one brown eye from the council members, but she told Fiona that they prefer to be anonymous, and then jump to this scene where she's hacking up their bodies and dissolving them in acid, and I loved that scene. That's what I missed about American Horror Story, those scenes that just got to you, you know, that made you feel either emotional or just horror. So I loved that whole story with her and the council members. It was great. I'm glad that we've left the notion and the idea of the Supreme. It was kind of touched on. The word was used once in the whole episode. That was great, and it was when Cordelia was telling Myrtle to respect your Supreme. But I really liked that they didn't really delve into... The girls were kind of in it, you know, with the neighbor boy. That was one of the stories that was more developed. You got to see more of his past and how his dad died, which I loved, because Misty Day brought his mother back to life. And yeah, that was a whole like side story that it wasn't my favorite in the episode, but I liked that it was something that we hadn't really seen or heard about yet. I think they're still going with this idea that Misty is the next Supreme, but who knows, because, you know, Myrtle was kind of talking about her in a positive way and, you know, upping her abilities and like bragging about them almost, it seemed. So I think they're still going with that for now, but we'll see. In the end, we see the Voodoo Queen. She did survive the shooting because Queenie killed herself, in turn killing Hank at the same time, killed him before he could shoot her. And so the last scene we see is her coming to Fiona's house and Fiona letting her in. So I'm wondering what's gonna happen because there's a lot of enemies within the Coven right now. You know, Cordelia doesn't like her mom, Fiona doesn't like Myrtle or the Voodoo Queen, although maybe they'll become alliances. Obviously, just because Hank's dead doesn't mean that it's gonna stop. There's still a war going on with the witch hunters. And they're obviously going to send more witch hunters to kill the Coven, everybody within it, so that'll be interesting to see. I also like that they explained a little bit more about him and the redhead, you know, who he shot. He had an affair on his wife and shot her in the head, I don't know. They kind of delved more into that a little bit, which was cool. They didn't give like a full plot synopsis or anything, but they kind of explained it a little bit better, so I liked it. I mean, yeah, we got it at the time and that he was a witch hunter and that she was a witch. We understand that, but his dad kind of went into, he was sloppy. They had to kill 2 other people who saw him there. He used a credit card so they could have been tracked and all this stuff. It was really cool. I was so pleasantly surprised by this episode and I loved it. I may even watch it again because it was just... This is like what American Horror Story is supposed to be like. I just wish they could do that every episode. Maybe not the entire episode has to be like it, but bits and pieces have to have that horror aspect and that emotional aspect for me. I don't know. I just think it's kind of expected with American Horror Story. So let me know what you thought about this episode. What's your favorite part? What's your favorite storyline? I'm excited to see more of La Laurie or Delphine, Kathy B, because I'm liking that she's developing, whereas in the first part of this show she was kind of one-dimensional, so I like that now she's showing her layers and we're getting to see more of her, and I think she's probably my favorite character next to Fiona. So leave your comments down below what you thought about this episode, what you think's gonna happen next, all that jazz. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.